Welcome to Hanging with H2Zen, the genre-free music and lifestyle podcast presented by H2Zen magazine. This is the place to come to celebrate all types of music, lifestyle, and more. We are glad you have come along for the ride, so sit back and enjoy the episode.
Hey Kevin, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How you going?
I am awesome. Thanks for joining me this morning. How are you today?
I'm beautiful. It's raining here in Los Angeles, so I'm very happy.
We're not far off the rain in Brisbane. It was a bit of a stormy night. So
Yeah.
how are you feeling? Like your final Australian tour, first Australian tour, however you want to label
A bit bipolar. Yeah, it's funny. I really thought that I'd have played Australia sooner. I've been trying for 30 years. If that is any kind of consolation to anybody that's going to be watching this or listening to this. It's one of those things. It's a country that I love very much. My band is named after a Midnight Oil song. I love Midnight Oil. I'm married to an Australian woman. Australia's got a special place in my heart. So I'm very excited to be playing there. I'm kind of bummed that it is the only time, and unless things go well, and maybe I'll come back and play some of the festivals. I mean, I honestly don't know, but I'm very excited, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
it? Yeah. Now fans probably don't understand that when they put a message on, say, a Facebook page saying please play here, that it's actually not that simple. So how much logistics went into getting Candlebox to Australia?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Everybody's like, "Yeah, come play for us," and in Bucharest or something. Yeah, it really is. You've got to find a promoter that's willing to take the risk on you. The expense of coming over to any country, certainly Australia. I mean, it's a little bit cheaper because the American dollar is so strong, but it's just a difficult process. And the taxes, the visas. We almost didn't play South America a couple weeks ago because we had some issues with visas. It's just one of those things. It's just not as easy as one would hope. I mean, I had hoped that over the past couple tours that like Live was coming down, Stunt of a Pilots, that we would be included in those. But I think promoters were a little bit afraid to kind of take a chance on us because we'd never played Australia, and so I'm just really stoked that Silverback rather has jumped on board, and they're bringing us over. I mean, it's I have been asked to come to Australia for literally, I mean, since the worldwide interwebs has been going. I mean, I've gotten messages from Australia. I've got a lot of family there. Like I said, I'm married to an Australian girl. She's from Noosa. So we got family coming over to the Melbourne show from Casterton and Mount Gambier, and it's going to be very exciting. But yeah, like I said, it has been a difficult process, and it is not as easy as one would think and one would hope. But here we are. We're coming over, and fingers crossed the shows do great.
So being married to an Australian, have you actually been back for just some holiday time?
Yeah, we come every Christmas. Yeah, we stay up in Noosa. We rent a little place up in Little Cove because it's my wife's favorite area of Noosa, so that's where we stay.
Being a Brisbane guy, know it well. So not too far from where we are. So you probably have more
Exactly.
family at the Brisbane show too, by the sound of it.
Yeah, it looks like it.
So when you think back to Candlebox, coming out of Seattle, unfortunately, you might have been labeled initially being a Seattle band, being a grunge band. What was important for you to make your statement when Candlebox came out?
Well, I think for us, it was really just judge the band based on the music that they create. Judge us on what it is that we produce and our shows, and the thing that's really interesting to me about Seattle is, and it's only because I come from there, but growing up and listening to all those bands, none of them sound the same. So I always thought it was odd that grunge was a term that was used broadboard rather than just across the board, rather than just like maybe Tad was a grunge band, or Blood Circus was a grunge band. But yeah, it seemed to be that they had to label it somehow, and instead of just calling it the Seattle sound, that was the term that came with it. For us, coming along a little bit later, it was a hindrance. You know, we really wanted people to kind of respect us for the music that we did, the style of music we were creating. We're a little bit more blues based than most of the bands. I mean, if we're similar to anybody, I would say probably mostly Mother Love Bone would be our similar style because of the riff and the blues element of what we instill in our songwriting. But you know, it was a great city to come from, and it was also a really amazing area to kind of experience so much different music. So for us, you know, kind of using our inspirations and influences of that city, we were able to make a record that piqued people's interest and pricked their ears and made them listen. And you know, luckily we sold 5 million records that allowed us to continue to do this for so many years. But it was strange, you know, it was hard to kind of find your footing. As you know, when I was going to see Soundgarden and bands like that, I was only 16 years old, and in America, and certainly in Seattle, Washington, you can't go to a bar unless you're 21. And so there were a lot of those environments that we couldn't even play. I had a punk band that I was playing drums in, and we were playing house parties. So, you know, I nobody even really knew who I was as a singer in a rock and roll band. Everybody kind of knew me as a drummer. So when Candlebox started, I think there were a lot of people going, why is that guy singing? And who is this band? And so that was kind of, you know, really why it I think was a little bit of a knee-jerk response for the Seattle music scene towards a band like Candlebox, because nobody knew who we were.
Sure. And then, you know, the first record, 4 million plus out of the gate. As you said, it's, you know, a huge debut. And then you've got to follow it up with Lucy. So generally, as they say, you've got your whole life to write your first album. What pressures did you find personally heading into Lucy? Like, was that a difficult time for you?
It wasn't. The hardest part for me was the relationship of the band. I've always been the reluctant lead singer of Candlebox. So for me, I've never really felt pressured to do anything. I mean, maybe I'm, you know, immune to that sort of kind of stress, but I think what it came down to is I was more worried about the record we made and the relationship of the band, because Pete, Marty, and Scott and myself weren't getting along at that point when we made Lucy. So I was more like, maybe we shouldn't release a record right now. Maybe we need to figure out what's going on, you know, internally between the four of us before we even, you know, decide to make an album. But that doesn't happen when you're signed to a major label. You know, when you're signed to a major label, we need to get that out. It needs to come out now. We've got to follow up on the success. But I ignored that. You know, I really just kind of, I said to the guys, if this is where we're going to be, this is the record we're going to make, and this is how we want to do it, then we need to do it on our own terms and deliver it when we're ready to deliver it. And that's what we did. I felt more pressure, I think, when we were doing Happy Pills, mainly because Dave Cruzen had joined the band, and we had come off of the slump of Lucy not doing well. So that's kind of where I felt the pressure was in the third album. And then after that, I was just like, you know, this is a ridiculous place to put yourself in mentally. All you're expected to do is produce music and be a creative artist, and that's what you should do, and don't worry about what anybody thinks. And so that when the minute I did that, I was able to do the High Watts and more Candlebox records and the Gracious Few, and you know, the list goes on and on. So pressure has never really been something that that has affected me, except for the Happy Pills record.
Sure. So a lot of people don't realize when bands sign a record deal, it can sometimes be a noose around their neck, really. What was the deal that you guys initially signed when you got picked up by a major? How many albums was it?
It was a 3-album deal. Actually, it was a 4-record deal. We signed at 18 points, which is essentially $1 a record. And all of our advances were, I believe, in the neighborhood of like $125,000. Not really a lot to produce an album with, but we were very I don't know what the word's not frugal.
Careful.
I don't know, we were very careful about how we spent the money, and we always made sure that we made, like when we did Lucy, the first record we'd made was like, I think we spent $10,000 on it, which is kind of, I think, surprising to a lot of people. So that record recouped immediately the minute they shipped, you know, the first 20,000 units. Our album was recouped. The second record, I think we spent about $60,000 on, and Happy Pills we may have spent $100,000 on. So we were very careful about being able to pocket some of the remainder of the cash to support us in case we didn't go out on the road or something like that. But the downside of those major label deals is that I got locked into the key man clause. So when the band split up after Happy Pills, I was contractually obligated to stay with Maverick. So I battled with them for about 2 years over that, and then I finally got released from that contract in 2002.
Now, speaking of Maverick, it was Madonna's label. Um, was she just like a figurehead to be known to the label, or was there actually any involvement from her?
She was great. We didn't meet her until about a year after the record came out because obviously she was busy, and as were we. But she was pretty instrumental in kind of those early on phone calls to MTV, VH1, certain radio stations that we needed a little help with. She was really good about reaching out to people to try and get Candlebox some notice. And as a matter of fact, I mean, she specifically called David Letterman when we played his show in 1994 and said, "You need to have Candlebox on. If you don't have Candlebox on, I'll never come back." And so, she did use her power at that point in her life for those kinds of things for us, and we were very grateful for that. I think she may have called us ungrateful pricks at some point because we didn't publicly thank her for that. So I made sure to wear her Madonna t-shirt when we did Woodstock '94, just to give her props for that. But she was great. I mean, she was a really great label owner. Freddie DeMann, who was managing her at the time and was the label president, was fantastic to work with. Guy Osiri, who was our A&R guy, was in our corner. So it was a really beautiful relationship when it first started. I think that once the Deftones and Alanis Morissette came along, their attention was kind of drawn from us. So maybe that's why we lost a little bit of the momentum when it came time to do Happy Pills and stuff like that. But, I really have no complaints about, being signed to Maverick or my relationship with Madonna or Guy or Freddie at all.
That's great. Now, you mentioned drums before. So did you drum on any Candlebox tracks or any demos? Was that your way of getting it organized?
Yeah, I'm on some of the demos. My drummer made sure that I wasn't on any of the records, but
right.
As a matter of fact, for Lucy, the original version of Best Friend was just myself and our producer John Plum, the engineer producer John Plum. So we actually tracked that song by ourselves, and the guys came into the studio and we played it for them. They're like, "What song is this?" I said, I just wrote it yesterday and we recorded it, and I played it for Freddie, and they want us to track the record. So I think that was an eye opener for the guys that, I was a little bit more musical than I think they thought I was. I think, because when Candlebox first got together, we didn't know one another. We weren't friends. I knew Scott, the drummer. That's it. So we kind of like a Simon Cowell boy band in the rock and roll world, if you will, put together by our producer, Kelly Gray. So I don't think the guys really knew what I was capable of as a musician because they'd never seen me play guitar. They'd never seen me play bass. They'd never seen me play drums. So I think that they were kind of shocked that I was able to track an entire song by myself. But like I said, I'm not on any of those Candlebox records when it comes to drums. I'm on all the demos because I wrote those songs with Pete, and I would play the drums for those. But yeah, none of the album recorded. That's not true. On Into the Sun, I'm on Into the Sun, I am on How Does It Feel, and there's one other track on Into the Sun that I play drums on, but I can't recall them.
Okay. Now, with those Maverick releases, was there much unreleased material that might be in a vault somewhere?
Yeah, it's just come out on our the Candlebox box set, the Maverick years. There's, I think, 6 or 7 unreleased tracks on there.
Okay, and so is that out through your own label? Have you gotten rights to it, or is it still through someone else?
Warner Brothers. Yeah, I think it's available worldwide. I don't know. They just sent me 2 boxes of it.
Right. At least they sent it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you were also in a little project with Morgan from Seven Dust. That's researching that. Is there any plans to look at things like that in the future?
No, I'm retiring after Australia, so I'm not going to make any more records. The only thing I'll do is I will do any kind of charity show that there is that I'm asked to do, to raise money for a good cause. But Morgan and I, that the Le Projet project was an absolute blast, and he's a fantastic drummer, beautiful human being, and I loved just making that record with him. I think there's like 6 songs that we've released of that. I mean, we talked about it over the years, but I just don't think it's feasible. I don't think it's an opportunity for us to do that at all.
Now, while you're retiring, do you see you actually maybe making any kind of new music and just not touring on it?
Not right now, but I mean, it's my love for music has been I've burned out on it, and I think it's mainly because I've made four records over the past 10 years that nobody's really listened to. And as much as I love those records, financially it's an incredible burden to make an album when you're not on a major label. And so I'd go out on tour and I'd make money, and then I'd go and make a record, and then I have to crowdfund the record because I didn't have enough money to make the record, and then I'd run out of crowdfunding sources. And I think it really sucked the life out of the music for me. So I honestly have no desire to record anything right now. It's just, and I don't want to be a musician that's phoning it in, and just because somehow I can get paid for it. I was offered an enormous tour next summer financially, and I said no to it. It's just not about that for me.
Now, speaking of phoning it in, a lot of artists do phone it in, but you don't. So what is your preparation for a tour, vocally, physically? What's important to you before you hit that stage?
I drink a lot of whiskey.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm not. I started singing in choir when I was in grade 2, and so I did that all the way up till grade 12. And so I've learned how to use my voice in ways that I think a lot of people don't understand, and that's just because I've been doing it for so long. I've only ever had 2 shows that I've had to cancel. I've had a vocal hemorrhage once, but I keep myself in shape by I sing all day long, which I think is weird. I think it drives my band nuts. But like, I'll be sitting in the front lounge, I'll just be singing songs that are in my head, and then I use sound check as my warm up. So we'll do probably 3 or 4 songs during sound check, and that gets my voice in the position that I need it to be in. And then the show comes in about 3 or 4 hours, and I'm good to go.
Okay, so on the flip side, what does retirement look like for you? What are your plans for retirement?
Well, I'm releasing a bourbon. I'm releasing a tequila. I'm releasing a whiskey. I'm releasing a rye. I've got a company called Lost Marbles, which is I'm doing with a buddy of mine named Nick, who's in a band called Mona. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mona, but they're fantastic if you haven't. And then I've got my foundation, which is called Riptide Society, which is for at-risk youth and young adults in the foster care system here in the United States. That's just basically making money available to them for college, art school, supplies, living expenses, anything like that for somebody who's grown up in the foster care system. So that'll take up a lot of my time. And then my wife has a clothing line, which I'm involved with the men's side of that. So just a lot of stuff going on that will keep me busy.
Okay, now I hate to use the term celebrity lines. So a lot of celebrities are putting their names on alcohol at the moment. What's going to make yours different? Where are you?
Well,
what's the background?
Well, it's easy right now for you can just go out and buy you can actually purchase bourbons online and stuff and create a label. We're actually doing the mixing and the blending process and the tasting. So we're hands-on in the environment of the Kentucky bourbons specific. So we want to stay as true to that as we possibly can. So we won't be one of those $20 price point bottles of bourbon. We'll be in the $80, $90. It will be single barrel selects. We're launching a 4-year as our first. And then our second release is a 7-year. So it will be specific to people who have a palate for that type of bourbon. We're not looking to become a multi-billion-dollar organization that sells for $10 billion or something like that. We both love bourbon. We love smoking cigars and drinking bourbon, and I mean, if it happens and blows up and becomes successful, that's great. But really, it's just about an opportunity for me to expand upon the things that I love, and that's one of the things that I really, really love is great, delicious bourbon. I mean, if I showed you my bar, you'd be like, wow, it's some nice stuff there. I mean, it's one of those things that I've had a passion for a long time.
Since you've come to Queensland, have you ever hit the whiskey bar in Brisbane?
I have.
How great is it?
It's lovely. I love it. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's just, it's the fact that that is there
Yeah.
is amazing to me, because I would never have expected, Australia to have a whiskey bar. I mean, I know the gin bars are big there, and tequila's starting to kind of make a statement in Australia as well. But whiskey is just one of those things that I didn't think Australians were fond of. And when I walked in there, I was like, okay, this is my kind of joint. So
Yeah, it's
maybe
great.
I'll open my own whiskey bar in Australia.
You should. Noosa's got the need for it. Now, man,
Yeah.
as we leave today, what do you want to let everyone know about the upcoming tour? Give me the hard sell.
I am so excited. You guys have no idea, man. I had been dying. Listen, I named my band after Midnight Oil lyric. I love Peter Garrett. My first band was called Wagga Wagga, which a lot of Australians probably didn't know what Wagga Wagga is. I have had this affinity and this relationship with Australia for so long, and I'm just so fucking stoked to come and play.
Awesome, Kevin. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cannot wait to see you guys live. Let's hit the whiskey bar after the show. It's right around the corner. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you soon, man.
Thanks, mate.
See ya. Bye.
Cheers.